Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for attending our base camp. I'm Melissa Jones with the Center for Teaching and Learning Excellence, and we're glad you're joining us today to talk about copyright and fair use with Monique from our learning design team. And with that in mind, just let us know if you have any questions. I will be monitoring the chat. And as a reminder, this will be posted publicly as a video. So if you do need to turn off your video or change anything with your name, feel free to do so. And with that, I'll turn this over to Monique.
Hi, I'm Monique Lyles. I work in learning design, and I'm going to be doing a presentation that was created with Dr. Doris Van Kempen-Bright. She's not able to join us today, but she does have some information that is in here, so I'm going to start with her information first. And we're going to talk about copyright, how to know what you can use in an online course, and how to examine fair use. Okay, so Doris has put together a LibGuide to support the copyright understanding of people at the university. So if you're looking at the LibGuide, you'll be able to go through the LibGuide. There are several links on there for copyright. There are several tools that you can use, and I'm going to go through each of the tools a little bit on how to use them for fair use. So she has updated the LibGuide for how to use, how to identify what copyright resources are available. If you have a question, she's welcoming you to contact her. Just contact Doris in Library Services, and she'll go over what you want to use. If you need to get copyright permission for items, she has a copyright form on the LibGuide that you can use to request copyrighted material, and she's willing to help you decide what kinds of items we already have in Library Services that can meet your needs, and to help you request copyrighted material the correct way. So there's also a fair use guideline that is there that is offered by the Library Association. So the next few slides that I'm going to go through are going to help people understand fair use. And we're going to go over some of the slides that have information in them for how to determine if something is fair use. So that's what we're going to do next. And then we'll have an activity where we can decide whether or not we can use something. Okay. So the elements of fair use is a defense to copyright infringement claims. It's determined by a court of law based on the specific facts of each case. There is no preset idea of how much you can use. Some people will say, oh, you can use 30 seconds of something. You can use like a small piece of a work, but there really is no set guideline for it. It's a case-by-case basis. So that's why you would want to use the fair use calculators, kind of. There are a couple of them that I'm going to share with you. One is in the LibGuide, and it allows you to go through and describe your use and gives you kind of an idea of how much of that would be generally considered fair use. Misusing the fair use exception to the copyright law can unnecessarily obligate St. Leo University to pay hefty fines for copyright violations. So what I want people to remember is that fair use is a defense to a copyright infringement claim. Fair use only comes up if you've been sued for copyright infringement or end up in court, and that's never someplace we want to be. So we want to try to go ahead and use the free items, the open source items. We want to kind of determine whether our use is fair to the best of our ability prior to using something. There are 4 elements to the fair use defense: purpose and character of the use, the nature of the copyrighted work, the amount used, and the effect of the use upon the potential market for the value of the copyrighted work. Oftentimes in higher education and in education settings, people assume, well, it's nonprofit, it's for educational use, so fair educational use applies across the board. And it does not apply as easily as people think. So we kind of have to examine those elements. So we're going to take a look at each of the elements individually. All right, the fair use calculators, the one here that's at the top of the link is the one that is in the LibGuide. I also have included another one. If you see, look at the image on the right-hand side that says, is this fair use? This is a very simplified version of a calculator where you can kind of decide what the item is, a video. It asks a couple of questions if it's artwork. It asks fewer questions and gives you kind of a more simplistic idea of what kind of a score grade on fair use this would be. So based on what I entered into the calculator, I got the following grade of C for this particular activity. So you'll get a grade out of it that tells you, whether it's risky, whether it's closer to fair use or not, based on how you want to use it. The other calculator that is in the LibGuide is more detailed. So it goes by each aspect of fair use. So the first aspect of fair use is purpose. What are you going to use the item for? So is it a video? Is it an art piece? Is it a song? What kind of activity is it that you're going to be using it for? Are you going to be putting it in an online course, or are you going to be using it in an on-ground course? All of that matters. So if you look at the calculator, if you look at this image here, this comes directly out of the calculator. So they're going to ask you a few questions to determine the purpose and the use to see if it's fair. So items that are kind of opposing the fair use, if it's not for criticism, comment, or news reporting or teaching, it's going to probably be not quite on the fair use spectrum. You might want to reconsider. If it's used by a commercial entity, if you're working on a course for St. Leo that we're going to sell, for example, like a CAPS course or something like that, the rules are different than if you were going to put it in a university course for students that are attending St. Leo University. If you're looking at something, I've done a lot of art classes, for example. If you're teaching a piece of art and you need to get the artwork for it, you're teaching about the Mona Lisa, for example. You can't really teach about the Mona Lisa without showing a picture of the Mona Lisa, right? If you're teaching your students how to critique the art, they need to be able to see it. So that's going to be more likely a fair use for educational purposes because there is no real alternative to using that piece of art. If you're doing music criticism, to using that particular piece of music. So those are all considerations. If you were going to go ahead and sell it and it was more decorative, like you wanted to use the artwork as a background for your course because it made the course look better, that would lend towards not being fair use. Because if you're looking for things that are going to enhance your course aesthetically and you're looking to use the artwork or something like that to do that, then you're most likely going to need to pay for that use. But if you're trying to teach about that particular artwork or that piece, you're going to be leaning towards fair use. The nature of the use is the next element that you want to look at. If the item has been published before, if it's got limited or new knowledge, things like that. If you're using an article or a story, you're researching and you're teaching Jane Eyre, for example, you're teaching the novel, and you're teaching it in an online course. You're wanting the students to analyze a passage. Using a small passage of that for the analysis of that particular artwork would be leaning towards fair use because you cannot analyze or teach about that particular item without using it. So that is what fair use is used for. If you wanted to use that quote on a t-shirt, for example, and then sell a quote from the novel on a t-shirt, that would not necessarily be fair use because it's not required for you to be able to teach that content. It's not based on teaching or instructing or commentary or critique. It's based on marketing. The next element is the amount used. A lot of times you'll hear people say, oh, I can use 30 seconds of a song, or I can use a piece of this image, or I can use about 20 seconds or 30 seconds of a video clip without having to worry about it. That's not exactly true. So it's based on the substantiality of it. What is the value of it? What is the purpose of the use? If you are taking the entire work or the heart of the work, if it's the essence of the work that makes people like it or makes it the most valuable, and you use that work without permission, that could be considered copyright infringement. Are you using more than what's needed to achieve the stated purpose? So if you are analyzing a guitar riff in a song, for example, and you put the song there, and you're using the whole song instead of just that particular piece that you want to teach about, you could be considered using too much of it. That's a substantial portion. So using these calculators will help you determine whether or not you are using the item in accordance with the fair use principles. The effect on the market. Now, this is the biggest part that I like to remind people, especially in the education arena. There is a lucrative market for educational content to be placed in online courses and even to sell to K-12 schools and universities. So if you are using something, for example, if you want to include a movie in your course, like Doris was saying earlier in the slides, what you need to do is use library sources. Using your Netflix account, your personal Amazon Prime account, personal videos you own are not appropriate or fair to use in your academic settings, on ground or online. You should be using university resources. For example, we have an InfoBase account where you can get videos for your university courses from there that we've already paid for a license for. You can use other resources that we have. If you want to use a movie, just ask Doris. There are some ways that she's able to get certain movies for limited viewing for use there. So if you want to use a popular film, I know there's a movie that some people use in business called Outsourced. It's a popular movie that came out a few years ago. If you want to use that movie as a case study, there is a company that sells the use of that. A company called Swank that licenses those for academic use by universities. So because there is a commercial exploitation of that, there is a clear licensing channel available to do that. Although it's not free, there is a licensing channel available to just go on the line or take a copy of that and try to include it in an online or an on-ground course would not be appropriate. For that reason. That would be a violation of copyright because they've provided you with an opportunity to use that academically. So we always want to take an idea about what effect it will have on the market. There is a big market. So there's a whole lot of things, like we use Pearson a lot, we use Cengage. Those companies have gotten licenses for video clips and things like that. So oftentimes you want to kind of check with Learning Design, or you want to check with CTLE department. Do we have something that we've licensed that you can use to get this legally, instead of kind of just going out there and trying to use your own copy of something? And now, if there are any questions about the first couple of items, you can ask them now about how to analyze the fair use, or you can wait till the end because there will be a Q&A session. If not, the next activity is going to go over some types of items, and we're going to kind of be interactive. Can you use it or can you not? So I'm going to kind of ask for some audience participation on those, and then kind of go with that. So, so far, are there any questions about library services and fair use? Okay, let's go ahead and go into this. Can I use this activity? All right, so this is a video that we often will place in, that could be placed in a St. Leo University course. It is, I'm just going to kind of go through. I'm not sure why this is not, is this going to show me? Hold on. Okay, there we go. This is going to be inside of the PowerPoint that I'm going to share with you, so you can kind of go through it interactively. So I'm going to show you how to do this one first, and then we can kind of vote on the following one, so you can kind of see how this works. You could use this particular video, and in the PowerPoint, you can play the video a little bit. We can use this because it is a crash course video. It's distributed on YouTube by the creators of the video on their official YouTube channel, subject to YouTube's terms and conditions. And so I've included the license that's there in YouTube. You grant other people the right to use what you're posting up there. So since there's an embed code there, and they have distributed it, and they are the creators of the video that are placing it on YouTube for use, you can use this in a course. We also have a copyright permission to use these in all of our courses. So if you're working on a course that has a crash course video, they have a whole bunch of different subject matters and topics, we have permission to use those in our St. Leo courses from the creators. Also, you want to make sure that your video has subtitles and closed captions, because we want to make sure that it's ADA compliant. So not only do we want to make sure that it's copyright compliant, we want to make sure that all of our students can access it. The next one, can I use this? Can you embed this case study in your St. Leo University online courses? So if you think you can, put a thumbs up or a yes in the chat box. Melissa, do you mind monitoring that for me?
Oh, I'd be happy to.
Okay, thank you.
Any reactions for yes and no, I'll let you know.
Okay, thank you. So I'll give people a couple of seconds to react to that. And this is an MIT Management Learning Edge activity. Okay. Did we get any comments?
So what do you think? We have a yes. Anybody
Okay.
disagree? Anybody think this can't be embedded? Okay.
Okay, so yes is correct. This is a Creative Commons license. So these resources are included in the PowerPoint. If you want to go to MIT's Management Sloan School, they have a lot of different case studies that are all Creative Commons that you can use in their entirety in your courses. It's created under a Creative Commons license. These are the different licenses. And if you want to learn more about the licenses, I've included a link here that tells you more about each of the Creative Commons licenses and how you can use the material under each license. And so they'll go over some of these. You can use this one here. I'll go over this one because it's got the most comprehensive here. So it's Creative Commons. It's it's non-commercial, so you cannot use it for commercial use, and it's no derivative. So that means you have to use it in its entirety if it has this symbol on it, exactly the way it is, and you give attribution based on what they tell you in the license. They'll give you an attribution so you can credit the person who created it. This one here, if you're looking at the one that's above it, oh, hold on, let me go back. It says CC by NC. You can make a derivative work from that. If it does not say ND, that means you can take the Creative Commons work and you can change it and make it your own. You can add things to it. You can add logos for your university. You can add things that make it specific to what you want to use. You just cannot sell it commercially. So if it has an ND, that means no derivatives. That means you cannot change it in any way or make it your own, but you can redistribute it or reuse it. If it does not say ND, you can change it. So each of these little symbols will tell you exactly what you can do. And for more information on that, you can look at the Creative Commons licenses page that I've provided. Okay, this one. Can you use and edit these simulation models in your St. Leo University online course? What do you think? Can you use them or no? Do we have any guesses?
We have a no. Anybody else? Do we have any yeses?
Okay.
Nope, we have all no's here.
Okay. This one, you can use this. These are created with a Creative Commons license. You may not make derivatives of it, though. You may use it by link only. You can link out into your course, and then the students will be able to go in and take these created modules. So IRIS has a bunch of different modules that educators can use to practice scenarios, to do different things, to learn how to do identify problems with students. They have a very extensive Creative Commons course that's in here that you can use to supplement the material that you are providing. So this is actually included in one of our, in two of our courses, I believe, two education courses. So they've used different pieces to give extra practice to the students taking the course. So you can use that, you just cannot edit it. And you cannot embed it, so you have to link out to it. But they give you those instructions on the website. It's also created using a federal grant by a university. So many university grants require that the products that are created with the grants be available to other educational institutions, and they're often created using Creative Commons licensing. So there will be several things that you'll see sometimes in courses that are created with learning designers that will have these Creative Commons elements in them, but they do allow you to share those with other universities as a condition of the grant, because that's usually using federal money. You cannot adapt the content in the simulations, but you can share the simulation. All right, can you use this? Do you think you can edit and embed these ebooks and interactive labs in your St. Leo University course? These are for a place called CK12. Although it's CK12, there are a lot of university uses. There are a lot of universities that are using the simulations for math and science. So do we have any guesses as to whether we can use these?
Let's see. We do have a yes and a no. Yeah, we're tied over here.
Tied?
Half yes, half
Okay.
no.
All right. So this one is a yes. So the terms of use, if you've ever used these before, the terms of use recently changed, and they've changed, and this is the first time I've seen this, but they've changed for machine learning. So some AI uses are prohibited now. So now more and more people are using machine learning and things like that and apps. So you kind of have to take a look at that. And this is primarily a STEM site. What happens is that they are providing um, ebooks. So it's a Creative Commons and it's no non-commercial use. So you cannot sell them, but you can make derivatives. So what professors are doing is going in and making their own ebooks. So they have these base books in a lot of different subject matter from K-12 all the way through university. So it'll be things on like algebra, college algebra, pre-calculus, math classes, biology. You can go in and add your own text and content. You can co-author a book with other faculty members. You can add videos to these interactive books. You can add simulations. So the simulations can be used and linked into your courses as well. And they're similar to other simulations like PhET, and they're all Creative Commons. So you can use them to help students practice with concepts like molecular structure, chemistry, math applications, and they're all free to use in Creative Commons. So the online textbook examples, I've placed them in here so you can go to the links and kind of look around at the textbook. You can change it. You can take sections out. You can type in your own text and add it if you want to add your knowledge and create your own custom textbook. All right, how about this one? Can you link or embed this video in your St. Leo University online course?
Okay, we're at a consensus with no, Monique.
Okay, good, good. No, you cannot use this. The terms of use for this site specifically state that you cannot use this on ground or online without getting a license from Annenberg Learner. Annenberg is a site that sells training programs and training videos for educators. So they have a whole product. This is that fourth element of, is it going to infringe on the market for this product? They have a market. They sell this product. So they're expecting you to go in and buy a license to use these videos to teach educators. So we cannot use those. If you'll notice on some of them, they'll say that they were produced by public television and other places. Although they may have been produced by public entity with public money, they are still being distributed by Annenberg Learner. So you would not be able to use these without their permission. Can you link or embed this video in your St. Leo University online course? Or include this in your course shell for your on-ground course?
Okay, we've got a couple responses coming in. Give everybody just a second. Ooh, we're divided again, Monique. We've got some yeses and some nos.
Okay, so the answer is no. You cannot use this. Now, there is a way to use it. This content was taken from the teaching channel. So a license is required to use this site in online and face-to-face courses and professional development for teachers. This is another one of those marketplace things. They are selling this to the university and K-12 market. Course packs, however, may be created for students ordering by course, program, or term with the college bookstore. So if you have a teaching program and you want to include some of these videos, these training videos, they have a very robust channel with a lot of resources that student teachers can use to help them with their practice and to get examples of how to do things. There's a lot of demonstration videos. So if you would like to use it, you need to go to the teaching channel site, and then you need to work with the bookstore to get these items offered through the bookstore. But students can purchase these through the bookstore as course materials. So they can purchase a subscription by course, by whole program, by individual course, things like that. And this one, can you use this one, this HBO video on class divide? Do you think you can use these for your course on classism?
We're seeing a steady stream of no's popping up on this one.
Okay. Actually, you can use this. SLU has an info-based, formerly known as Films on Demand account. So the LibGuide is available that shows you how to set up your account. So there are a lot of different things that we can use. So if you want to use a video, if you've seen one on the internet and you just don't know if we have it available in any of our items, please contact Doris. She would like you to contact her when you start developing a course, and she can go over the materials that we have in library services for you. This is one of them. So if you send her your syllabus and let her know what's going on, she'll assign a librarian to it, and they will go through all of the different, there are so many things that we have that we could, there's too many to list. There's too many resources for us to list. So it's just easier to go through Doris, and they can go search for things. And if you send the syllabus, she can give you a list of all kinds of things that you may want to consider using in your course. Because we do have quite a few databases. We do have quite a few places that we can go to get things, to get interlibrary loans. So there's no reason for you to go out there and kind of feel like you're on your own and you can't find good content, because the library resources have been set up for you to give you access to a lot of great things for your classes. All right, this one. What do you think about this one? Can you use these videos?
We see some yeses coming in, it looks like.
Okay.
Yes, so we have yeses.
Do we have any no's, or everybody yay on this one? Okay, you are correct. This is a YouTube channel that's subject to the YouTube terms of use, and it's got teaching videos and everything on it. So it's a YouTube channel. So how about this one? Can I edit and embed this book in my online course? I've got an English course, or I've got a literature course. What can I do with this?
We have some no's.
Okay. All right, everybody ready? Yes, you can use this. The copyright of this book has expired in the United States. So since we're making courses in the United States, although we are worldwide, if you're confused about where something's going to be distributed, you want to ask. Ask Library Services, ask Learning Design. For the most part, this can be used because the copyright has expired in the United States. You can find additional ebooks that may be edited and used in online courses from Gutenberg.org, read.gov books. They will tell you what the copyright is for that. And you can go ahead and use a lot of these things. So if I have English classes, sometimes we want to have passages that students can work with and play around with in an interactive activity, something like that. We can go to these sites to create those items with this text that is usable. All right. One thing I want to say about that also, if you're using music, for example, too, this came up, I was talking to Colleen about this one day, and if you're using music, a lot of times it will be, if it's like classical, for example, it could be a classical musician that's available in the United States, but if you're using it like, say, in Austrian, it's one of those Austrian people from like 16 something, 17 something, oftentimes their work is still copyrighted in their own home country. So you have to think about international copyright sometimes when it comes to that. And you also have to think about who performed it, because you have a performance right when you're doing videos, music, things like that. And then you also have the person who wrote it. So the person who created the work, you might be performing a Mozart piece, for example. So you have two copyrights. So you have the original Mozart that may still be under copyright in his home country, but then you also have the copyright of that version as it's performed by whichever orchestra that was. So it can get kind of complicated. So you always want to double check with library services or with your learning design team. All right, plagiarism versus copyright infringement. The main difference between copyright infringement and plagiarism is that copyright infringement is illegal and plagiarism is not. Plagiarism isn't tolerated at St. Leo from students or faculty. So when providing content for your course, please properly credit the work of others, and we're expecting to convey your expertise to students by creating original content. So any other content out there should be supplementing the content that you're creating for your course, because people are looking for your expertise. To learn more about avoiding plagiarism and copyright versus plagiarism, there's a link to an article there. But just think about it when you're doing it. If you wouldn't want your students to do it, make sure you're not doing it when you're creating your courses. And terms of use. This is another tool that you can use to make sure that you're able to use something. Always check the terms of use on the page of the material that you're using. So it's very important to consider where the items are obtained from, and look at a link to the copy of the terms of use. So if you're in doubt, seek assistance from library services or learning design. But there are some examples here of some of the content that we have included in this presentation and their terms of use. So learner.org, that tells you their licensing. Gutenberg will tell you their licensing, archive.org, freebooks.net. You can go in and look at each of the terms of use on any page, and often there'll be an email address there where you can contact somebody if you want to use things. I've requested use of items several times over the years, and usually they get back really quickly with a yes or a no. And so it's always better to ask. A lot of times people are afraid to ask because they don't want to get a no. But those are the ones you should ask for. If you're suspicious that you might get a no, or you're worried you might get a no, always ask, because if you get that no and you've used it in a course but you never asked, and then it comes up that someone finds out that it's in the course and it's copyright infringement, now you've put the university in a very precarious predicament, because now they have infringing work in their courses. And now we could either end up having to negotiate and pay a large fee for something that we didn't intend to pay for, or end up having to pay fines if we're in court. So we never want to be in that position. So if you're concerned that you can't use something, that's the time to ask. And you can also ask library services for alternatives. So there are a lot of resources that we do have. You are not out here on your own trying to find content. Okay, so rules for editing videos. I've included this. I'm not going to go too much into this, but I have included this because sometimes when you're doing YouTube videos, snipping for clips and timing, that can be considered an edit or changing or making a derivative work. So you want to look at your timing and your rules for editing the videos. Most third-party software, for example, like if we're making something for you in learning design and it's using Articulate, we can't use YouTube videos for that unless they're owned by us or created by the faculty, because there's a block on there for copyright infringement. You're not even able to upload them into the editing software. There is something called Edpuzzle that is available for YouTube videos, and TED Ed lessons. So if you want to turn a TED video into a whole lesson within like an interactive video lesson, you can do that for free. You can go on TED Ed and then register for an educator account, and then you can pull all of their videos into one of the lesson formats and platforms. You can add questions, discussions, things like that for the TED videos, and you can make the Edpuzzle videos interactive for educational purposes. And so the links are included here on the PowerPoint for that. So that is the end of my presentation. I have left some time for question and answers if anybody has any questions about copyright or about library services or any of the things that we can help you with.
Okay, and we'll open it up to questions. You'll use the chat, or feel free to unmute yourselves if you have any questions. And if not, Monique, I have a question. Is there a better practice in terms of embedding versus just linking out to something? Is there a rule with that, or something you suggest we consider?
Yes. First of all, your terms of use will give you some of that information. So if you're doing an embed from YouTube, what you want to look at is who put the video there. You'll see things, for example, you can actually embed like clips from popular TV shows, TNT, and a couple of others. I'll actually share that link with you to those. There are several of them that are on YouTube now that are like the copyright for TBS. The channel has their own YouTube channel now. So they put out little snippets and clips of some of their shows like Friends and Seinfeld and things like that. If there's an embed code there, they've put it out there by the owner, the person who created it. And as the copyright owner has created a legal channel, a lot of times Ellen videos are like that. You can take Ellen stuff because it's created by her team and they're putting it out there with an embed code. When you see that embed code, that means they're giving you permission to embed it. They're wanting you to share it. They're wanting you to do those things. And that would also lend itself to fair educational use. So if you can share them just to be sharing them with, social media and friends, I would likely think you can share that for educational purposes as well. So that is one of the clues. If you see one that does not have an embed code, there are some downloaders where you can kind of rip things from the internet. Never use those. If you if you want to embed a video, if it doesn't come with an embed code from the source, don't embed it. Not unless you have specific permission from the copyright owner, and they will then usually send you the files directly that you're to use. So avoid those like Video Grabby and those things that you might use for your own personal use. Avoid using those altogether to download things for a course. So looking for that embed code. Looking at the terms of use. Sometimes they'll want you to link out, like the IRIS modules. They don't offer an embed code. If you are savvy and technology savvy, you can create one, but you never want to do that. You don't want to go and create a way to take content and use it in a course that was not provided to you by the person who created the content. That's a clue that you probably need permission, because if they wanted you to use it that way, they'd made it easy for you to use it that way. So don't do that. Just because it's educational use and it makes it easier for you to download it and then share it with your class, don't do that. So look for that. It's when in doubt, always link out. So as opposed to embedding, when you embed things, that is kind of a derivative use, and you are putting it on your page, and it looks kind of like you're representing it as your work. So unless they've given you that embed code, do not use it. Just link out. When in doubt, link out. That's what I tell people, because you're going directly to where they've made it public on the internet, and you're not doing anything extra.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, let me double check the chat. I don't see anything in the chat. And so with that, I'll say thank you to Monique, and I will turn over our closing remarks to Karen.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Melissa. Thank you so much, Monique, for your presentation and educating us on fair use and copyright. In the chat, if you do not mind, we have a survey we would like for you to complete. Shouldn't take you any more than 5 minutes tops, probably about like 8 questions. We would really appreciate your feedback. So it's in the chat. Thank you so much. And Melissa, back to you.
Thank you. Everybody have a great day. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. And if anybody has any questions, I'll hang around to address them.